what I believe to be the best run and gun settings for the DJI Action 5 Pro. Let's go. Alright guys, now I hope you're all good. Now typically action camera footage, a lot like smartphone footage, can look a little bit too oversharp and oversaturated, and to be fair, just a little bit fake looking. So in this video I'm going to run through what I believe to be the best settings for the Action 5 Pro that will not only give you the best image quality, but will also be pretty damn easy to work with as well. So let's get started. So obviously you want to be in video mode, you don't want to be in photo mode, so if you're in another mode, to change this, simply click the little icon in the bottom left hand corner, cycle through the options until you hit video, or press the power button a couple of times and that'll also do the same thing. So yeah, make sure you're in video mode and then we can go to the video settings. Right, so first up, let's look at the recording settings. So I like to shoot in 4K, and because this camera is pretty damn awesome, it lets you shoot in an aspect ratio of 4:3, which will mean that you'll be able to crop it not only for landscape, but also for portrait, so you can use it for YouTube, and you can also use it for your shorts and your Instagram reels, which is pretty damn cool. So I like to use 4K resolution, and then the aspect ratio of 4:3 rather than 16:9. Then, because I live in the UK, I shoot at 25 frames per second just to avoid any kind of like flicker from the lights due to the frequency. I don't fully understand it, but yeah, 25 frames per second is what I like to choose. And then if I want to do some slow motion, I'll bump that up to 50 frames per second or even 100 frames per second. Obviously, if you live in like the US or something like that, then you might want to shoot at 24 frames per second, and then you're going to want to do like 60 and 120. Wherever floats your boat and whatever country you live in, you just decide this. It's not really that important, but 4K resolution I would definitely recommend, and 4:3 aspect ratio so that you can then crop in for horizontal and for portrait. Right, so while we're on this page, if you just click in the top right hand corner, this will allow you to change your focal length along with the image stabilization settings for this camera. So what I like to choose is standard D-warp, because that kind of fixes the whole like bulbous look that you get from these action cameras. It makes it look a little bit like you're underwater in a fish tank. I'm not really a fan of this look. I want mine to look a little bit more realistic, so I've gone with standard D-warp. Now I know you can fix this in post, but it's just another step, isn't it? So yeah, I'd rather go with standard D-warp. And then for the image stabilization settings, I like to go with standard rock steady because honestly it's bloody awesome. I don't know really why you'd want to go with rock steady plus. There's probably some other benefits that rock steady plus offers, but for me, for what I do, rock steady is enough. But like I said, this is all personal preference. All I'd recommend really is the 4K resolution and 4:3 aspect ratio at this point. Other than that, all personal preference. So that's it for the recording settings. Now for the video settings. And the first thing you're going to want to do is hit Pro, because this will open up all the advanced features. Then you're going to want to change the color mode and cycle through until you hit D-Log-M. D-Log-M is going to give you the best overall image quality, but it's also going to eliminate all that kind of oversharpened, oversaturated, fake looking image that you usually get from these action cameras. Now I know for beginners, shooting in log can seem a little bit daunting. Maybe you're not sure how to edit the footage to get the image you want, or you have no idea how to expose it correctly. Well, DJI could not have made it any easy for you, and I'm going to show you how you can film and edit this footage without having to be a video editing guru. So obviously when you turn D-Log-M on, it looks crap. Like it's all washed out, there's no saturation, there's no contrast. It can make it very difficult to expose your image correctly or know what you're even shooting. So the first trick is to make sure that color recovery is switched on. And DJI have been awesome at including this little added feature, because what it does is it converts the log footage back into what's called a Rec 709 color space. This basically just means that it looks normal. Everything looks saturated again, all the contrast is back in, and you can see what you're doing. However, it doesn't affect the final image. It's like adding a temporary filter over the top just so you can see whether or not you're exposed correctly. So when you do upload it back to your computer, it's going to look crap again. But this is a good thing, because it means that all the color information and all the information in the highlights and the shadows is still in those files, and it'll allow you to color grade it much more professionally. And if color grading is not your thing, then you just simply whack a Rec 709 LUT over the top and you're done. It'll look the same as it did when you shot it. Or maybe you're a complete beginner, you don't have a computer and you rely on your phone to edit the footage. It doesn't matter, because if you connect it to the DJI Mimo app, you can upload the footage directly from the action camera and convert it back to the Rec 709 color space from there. And to connect to the app could not be easier. All you need to do is turn the camera on, It'll simply find the camera for you, and then from there you'll be able to see all the footage that you've taken, select the clips that you want to edit, and they will look crap still because they are in log format, but it's really easy to correct this. All you need to do is press color correct. Boom, done. And that's it, it's back to a Rec 7 or 9 colour space. So from there you can either export it as it is because it looks pretty good, or add one of DJI's amazing filters over the top because they've got some awesome filters that are like professional colour grades. You don't even need to know how to do it. I'm pretty much out of a job. So yeah, you just whack one of those on, make sure that the watermark's switched off because you don't want a silly logo in the bottom left hand corner of your footage because it looks a little bit amateur. And there you have it. Upload it to Instagram, upload it wherever you want. Fully colour corrected, colour blooming edited clip, done. On your phone, so easy. So yeah, shooting in log really isn't that daunting, especially with DJI, it's so easy. So I'd highly recommend that you shoot in D-Log M to get the best overall image quality and get rid of all that over-sharpened crappy look that we usually get from DJI action cameras. They look crap. D-Log M. Right, so next we have exposure. And you're not going to want to do anything overcomplicated here because like I use auto exposure 90% of the time. Let's face it, these are action cameras. They're not professional cameras. Well, they are kind of professional, but they're not professional big cameras like this with all the fancy dials on. Because shooting in manual in a camera like this is really awkward, is really annoying. You've got to continually press buttons to find stuff. So auto exposure is definitely the way that I like to shoot, and I'll show you how I use it to its optimal potential. So firstly, I like to set the ISO to its full range. That's 100 to 12,800 because I can't be bothered to mess about. And then what I like to do is I like to adjust the exposure value compensation by minus 0.3 EV, because in my testing that seems to give the best results. And usually you'd overexpose log footage, but for some reason I think DJI exposes more for the shadows, so when it's auto exposing itself, it just kind of like blows out all the highlights and looks a bit silly. So I find I get the best image if I do this at minus 0.3 EV. And then for the white balance, I just leave this on auto white balance because I'm always changing my environment. So I'm not really taking note of the environment that I'm in. I'm sometimes inside, sometimes outside, and it can change. So auto white balance is fine for me. Because I'm shooting in D-Log, I have a bit of flexibility on how I can adjust the colors and the temperature in post. So yeah, auto white balance is fine. And obviously if I know I'm going to be in the same location for a while, I will set my white balance manually, and it couldn't be easier with this camera. Other camera manufacturers, take note. Because the way that you can manually set the white balance is genius. Like, it's genius. What you do is you put it on auto white balance, give it a few seconds, let it adjust to the temperature of the room, and then just hit manual. It picks out the value that the auto white balance picked out. So you don't have to find it, you don't have to figure out what it was and try and guess. It just does it automatically. So if you go outside and it's now Kelvin 5600, and you have really no idea if it's 5,600 or 6,000, just put it on auto white balance, let it adjust, press manual, and it'll put it on the right setting. Same again if you go inside, do the same again. It's genius. I don't know why other camera manufacturers don't do the same thing. Auto white balance is actually quite, it's quite accurate if you give it a few seconds. I get that when you're going in and out of rooms and stuff like that, it can fluctuate and ruin your footage, which isn't great. If you're in the same environment, auto white balance is pretty damn good. So to be able to get the correct white balance from your auto white balance in manual is just, it's game changing really, and it definitely should be in bigger cameras. And next up we have image adjustment, and as I said in the beginning of the video, I'm not really a fan of all this kind of over sharpened action camera smartphone footage, so if I can alleviate that in any way, I'm gonna do it. And along with D-Log M, what I like to do is set the texture to -2 because I hope that that's going to reduce the sharpening. You can always add it back in post if not. And then for the noise reduction, set this to -1. And that's it really for image adjustment. Nothing else. Now you might be wondering why I'm recommending that you shoot everything in auto and not in manual, and then have some ND filters stuck on the front. And other than the fact that shooting in manual on a camera like this is a pain in the ass, they're not actually designed to have ND filters stuck on the front. Not for most case scenarios anyway. And that's because of their image stabilization and how it works. They don't have a gimbal internally or an axis like these cameras do or like the Osmo Pocket does. Instead, it's all digital, it's all computerized, and it's all like some form of wizardry that DJI have come up with. And don't get me wrong, it's fantastic. But it actually requires a very high shutter speed for it to work properly. And by sticking an ND filter on the front, you're going to reduce that shutter speed quite significantly. So it's no longer going to have that extra information that it needs to stabilize the footage correctly. So if you look at these examples, you'll see that the one where I have an ND filter on, everything kind of looks all wobbly and is kind of artifacty. And then when I don't have the ND filter on, It looks smooth as butter. Other than that, they're action cameras. They're designed for grab and go footage. So if you want to jump out of a plane, surf, or fly down a mountain on a snowboard, that's what they're for. You're not going to be manually exposing every time you jump off a cliff. So yeah, I just thought I'd mention why I'm not bothering to use ND filters on this camera. Because more hassle than it's worth. So those are the main video settings I like to use. Now I'm going to show you the audio settings I like to use. So for audio, other than using the internal microphone, which is actually pretty good on this camera, I like to use the DJI Mic 2s, because why not? They're absolutely fantastic. And if you buy one of the combo packs, you can actually get one of these microphones with it, which is, well, it's a bargain really, and I definitely recommend it. So the way you sync these is, you actually go to settings and then go to wireless mic, and then you can choose TX1 or TX2 depending on how many microphones you've got. Then you're going to want to press and hold the power button for a few seconds until the light turns blue. Then you want to press the sync button for a few more seconds until it starts flashing blue. And then that's it, it's done, it's paired. And from here I'd recommend that you turn the low cut off, because I find that it just adds a load of artifacts into the audio. Not a fan of how it sounds. And then I'm going to turn 32-bit flow on because it gives you the best audio quality possible. And because I've got two mics, I'll put dual recording on, because then it separates out the audio for each individual mic. So if you've got two people hooked up, you've then got better control in post. Or you can turn it off and then they both merge into the same channels. And then if we go back to the main settings, what you can do here is you can actually turn on the built-in mic backup. And that's going to give you a backup audio file that will be from the internal microphone of the camera itself. Just in case these wireless mics, I don't know, they run out of battery, or you forgot to turn them on, or they weren't synced or whatever. You've got a backup. And then if we go out of here and we go back to the side menu, you can then adjust the audio gain for each microphone individually. Set it to stereo or mono, and you can also put the wind noise reduction on as well if you want to do that. I just like to set that to 0. So that's it. That's how I've got this camera set up for not only convenience but also for what I believe to be the best image quality as well. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps out the channel. Consider subscribing if you want to see more videos like this. Hit the bell, all those nice things that will put a smile on my face. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.
I know, you heard a little something about me, right? People love to talk, everybody wanna tell me, right? I know, bunch of fakes all around me, right?